And it is Indiana in the Morning at WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. Good morning, and thanks so much for being with us here today on this Wednesday. Our conversation happening next with Miko Rose, Dr. Miko Rose, Dr. Ryan Smith from IUP, and the College of Osteopathic Medicine, proposed now, but getting ever closer, step by step, inch by inch. Anything's a cinch, as they say. Presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm, best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Dr. Rose, we've had you on before talking about this thing, and you know, it really is it's a painstaking but necessary process, isn't it?
Yes, it's one of the most intense, exciting, and anxiety-provoking endeavors I think we've ever both the team has taken on. It's incredible. It's been so exciting to get so much community support, and there's a lot on the line.
Well, yeah, and we talk about community support, which is so very, very important that everybody be behind this. But it's not just the community of IUP. It is everybody in Indiana County and the entire region, because we're talking about something that really is going to change the face of medical care, we hope.
Yes.
For all of this Western Pennsylvania. Absolutely.
We've known for many, many years that rural health care access and the healthcare provision has needed a facelift, and we are more than excited and just thrilled about the community support that we have, not only here in Indiana, but our growing ring of partners that have just been helping so much in signing clinical affiliation agreements and helping us tremendously. So,
which brings us to Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith, yes.
He's been working so very, very hard to come up with these arrangements. That's not an easy process either, is it?
It's not. And, you know, a major piece of development in medical school is the clinical affiliations and sort of boots on the ground, finding out where our students are going to be able to do their clinical rotations, and even helping support graduate medical education, residencies, and internships. Mm-hmm. And we've been, steadily making our way throughout the area, signing agreements with different hospitals and clinics and different entities that our students will do their third and fourth year rotations at.
I don't know geographically if our area is much different from other areas, except for the fact that it is such a rural area. And therefore, you've got a number of different medical providers all the way across this region, and you've gone far and wide all across our region to make yourself acquainted with these. And I'll ask you it this way: is it an idea of looking at a facility and saying that fits our mission, and therefore I'm going to pursue an affiliation agreement with this facility and that facility? Is that how you go about it?
To some degree. Some of the facilities have come to us and wanted to partner with us. Mm-hmm. Others we've sought out because of their unique patient populations or locations. Most of our sites are going to be within a 50-mile radius of Indiana, mm-hmm. and the students will spend their entire third year located in a rural community where they're living, experiencing life in a rural community, going to the farmers markets, going to, downtown, small town life. So they understand what rural life is. Mm-hmm. So when they go out to practice, it's kind of second nature to them, and hopefully they'll consider rural practice as their primary focus.
Yeah, and Dr. Rose, of course, I know that when you consider the students in that particular situation, sometimes just like with these affiliation agreements, you go after them, and sometimes they go after you. They look for what is going to be the proper match for the way that they envision their medical career going.
Absolutely. Every single one of our agreements has been signed with delineated and specifically held rotations for each specialty has been exclusively in rural hospitals, clinics, and centers, which we feel there's a fit and affinity. Just like in sports, mm-hmm. you get the right members for the right teams. We have been very fortunate that some of those teams have been coming to us, and that is in large part thanks to our community media teams locally that have been helping put the word out about what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm. For folks who don't have a real grip or a grasp on what osteopathic medicine is, maybe we should take a moment and just settle in on that and basically define what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So what many folks don't know is that many physicians, you may be seeing a doctor who is your primary care provider or your surgeon. If you look at their name tag, check to see if they're an MD or a DO, because it Right now, it's between 1 in 10 to 2 to 10, 2 out of 10 of the physicians in practice are DOs, depending on the community that you're in. In rural communities, there are more DOs in practice in comparison to urban areas by comparison of their MD counterparts. Osteopathic medicine is an approach to looking at communities, primary care focus, and looking at holistic approaches. So we have what are called fundamental tenets and philosophies. Things like the body has an innate ability to heal itself if you allow it to be in alignment and essentially get out of the way. And we really look at holistic approaches, not only to human bodies, but also to our families and communities. So it's a very understandable following of suit that 60% of graduates of osteopathic medical schools go into primary care. And depending on the region, 20 to 40% of osteopathic medical graduates practice in rural regions.
And this particular region is, it's obviously rural, but
Yes.
also there's a very obvious need for physicians and for people in the medical profession here in this area. And so
Yes.
the hope is that with IUP establishing this program, that will not only turn out and be very proud of doctors and physicians who can go anywhere, but certainly that some of them will stay right here,
Yes, exactly.
be a big part of our medical puzzle, and
Yes.
be the pieces that fit into that. So we hear the term accreditation.
Yes.
And why that is such a big term for us and why it is so important for IUP. Tell me about the accreditation process. What has to happen?
Yes, so we've been very fortunate that we have both Dr. Luke Mortensen, who had helped with the accreditation process in a school in Idaho and moved here to Indiana from Idaho, and Dr. Ryan Smith, who has also helped another school in Florida with accreditation and been through the entire process. They just matriculated their first class. He came from Florida and moved here to Indiana as well. It is a very intensive process, and that is because, frankly, if you were meeting your brain surgeon, you want to know that they went to a medical school that had a very, very high standard to ensure that you had excellence of education. People often think of things like holistic healing and approach to the tenets of osteopathic medicine that you will see in other arenas and discussions. It's not necessarily held up to the same associations of high standards. Medical education, whether osteopathic or allopathic, have very, very high standards for education that need to be met. That's everything from the infrastructure of the rotations to the classrooms to the faculty to the hiring. We have a number of reports that we have been steadily working on, writing up, working with consultant groups, and I think it's possibly 600, 700. We have 2 reports each that are over 300 pages, plus additional reports. So it's a lot of work to document, demonstrate, and create the infrastructure that will meet the medical standards for the national requirements. So it's quite a bit of work. It's very important, and we are very much in support of stringent requirements to ensure that we are creating an incredible opportunity for excellent and outstanding future physicians.
Dr. Smith, of course, you're involved with the hospital or other medical facilities themselves, and they have their physical plants and the way that they do things now, and they're unique to each of those facilities. IUP, of course, you'll build physically a physical plant on the campus for people to get to that stage where then they'll go to those facilities.
Yes.
Talk about the match between how IUP will approach it physically and within the classroom setting, and then moving it into the clinical setting.
So I can start with the preclinical setting in the classrooms. We are so fortunate that IUP already has a beautiful infrastructure of allied health sciences in the health sciences colleges. They just brought psychology into the fold, since we know that mental health is a key part of the equation for health and healthy communities. There's nursing, psychology, speech and language pathology. We have a number of allied health professions that are already doing incredibly well at IUP. We are in the process of a pre-feasibility design build. We're looking at some potential building spaces in areas that we could build some new facilities, and we're really looking at the existing infrastructure of IUP of other colleges to see how we can collaborate, share spaces, possibly even share lectures, cases, and really bring together communities of teams in the preclinical training years, so in the first and second years of medical school, so that our students won't be surprised when they hit their clinical rotations.
Yeah.
They will have already been training with nursing students, with speech pathology students, with counseling students, with psychology students. And we think that early exposure is one of the keys. So even the physical building and infrastructure, we are very deep in conversations of discussing what areas, what buildings, and how we can have shared integrated spaces for an integrated approach to community care for our future physicians.
Yeah, and then Dr. Smith, coming out of Florida, where you've just gone through this whole
Yes.
process, and moving here to Pennsylvania. I don't know how different it is here than it was down there for you, but develop that a little further for us. Then take us off of the campus and put us into those settings.
Sure. So, excuse me, once the students finish their second year of medical school, they progress into their third year, which is their clinical training year. And that's the year that they will leave our campus and go to an affiliated clinical site. And we really consider these affiliate sites as extensions of our first and second year IUP-based program. We're providing faculty development to our clinical rotation sites, so the faculty are able to teach and they are facile at current trends in education. We are developing programs where the students will be able to spend their entirety of their third and possibly fourth year in a rural community in that training center. And also we're helping develop graduate medical education programs. So once the students graduate from our program, they're able to, match somewhere and do their training, hopefully very close to home.
Yeah, yeah. Now, folks, of course, are very much interested in the timeline. When is my doctor going to be walking off of the IUP campus and out of the clinical setting and setting up an office right here in Indiana?
Yeah. So we're looking for matriculation of our first class in the fall of 2027. Mm-hmm. So it being 2025, when I originally took this role, I thought that's a long time, 3 years to start. That is apparently for medical accreditation standards, lightning speed. And now, yes, Dr. Smith and Dr. Mortensen have been a part of this process. Now that I'm intimately involved in the initial processes, it's lightning speed. I can see why schools do take sometimes up to double the amount of time that we are taking. However, we know time is of the essence. We are in an emergency situation for healthcare access in rural regions, especially in Indiana. And so we know that we don't have the luxury of time. And we've also been very fortunate. Our healthcare partners across the state have been so generous with rotations that students in these clinical rotations could stay for the entire 2 years and do rotations at the same clinics and hospitals where they did their third year rotation. So we're really excited about that. It will take another year and a half, close to 2 years, before we can open our doors. And then medical school itself is 4 years. We will eventually be looking into shortened tracks if allowed by COCA, the National Accrediting Agency. But right now, that's still 2 more years before we can open, and then 4 years for a medical graduate for them to graduate and enter residency.
Yeah. And of course, many folks will have the question, what if I build a medical school and no one comes? So obviously the recruiting process, the marketing process for the College of Osteopathic Medicine, that has to be a part of it all as well.
Yes. Well, surely in Indiana, PA, we have fans of the Field of Dreams and that philosophy of building great dreams and big visions and attracting incredible partners. Indiana does have that history. We started with that ideology in mind, and I believe that's part of why we've had such an attraction of partners with communities and the basis of this. We frankly didn't expect the level of support that we had, but we knew that there would be more support than appeared on paper in terms of rotations. And Indiana PA has yet again surpassed that expectation of what was predicted one could do on paper and what they achieved as a community. IUP in this College of Medicine and what has been building a momentum that's much greater than any of us on this team. We can only be grateful for Indiana. It's been incredible.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We'll continue to look forward to more progress, more affiliation agreements.
Yes.
Yes, we will.
Dr. Miko Rose, Dr. Ryan Smith, thanks so much for coming and visiting with us. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com, 926 Boomer Sports, brought to you by S&T Bank, People Forward Banking.